Hey there, and thanks for tuning in to a legacy episode of Fraud Forward, which you might remember as Banking on Fraudology. I'm really glad you're here. The content is still packed with real-world insight from the front lines of fraud. New episodes of Fraud Forward drop every Wednesday, with 5 minutes of fraud dropping every Friday. You can also find more resources, events, and updates on the website, and I'd love for you to check it out. But for now, let's dive into the episode. Before we jump into the episode, I want to take a quick second to share something personal. As a lot of you know, I recently joined Sardine, and I don't say this lightly when I tell you I'm kind of obsessed. It actually started back at Money 2020. I sat down with the Sardine team for what I thought was going to be a standard demo. I even brought a fellow credit union fraud fighter with me because honestly, we were ready to interrogate the product. Instead, we sat there with our jaws open like, wait, what? Watching cases update in real time, seeing OSINT pulled directly into the case without, clicking 10 buttons or jumping between tools, it was one of those moments where you realize, oh, this is what it's supposed to look like. And here's the thing, the tech was impressive, but what really stuck with me was the way the team interacted, the way they talked about the problems that they're trying to solve. It felt different. And now that I've been here for a little over a month, I can say that it wasn't for show. This team is smart, driven, and genuinely focused on fixing gaps that fraud teams have been living with for way too long. I'm really excited about what we're building, and I can't wait to bring you along for what's coming next. In the meantime, you can check out more at sardine.ai to learn more info.
What's up, fraud fighters, and happy Thanksgiving. Whether you're listening from your commute, your kitchen, prepping mac and cheese for 47 people, or hiding in your garage from your family for some peace and quiet, welcome back to Banking on Fraudology. Today's episode is a little different. It's just me, you, and one giant serving of gratitude. And yes, I've brought all the puns this year for at least this episode. Who am I kidding? I think I do it for every episode, but either way. This time of year always nudges us to slow down and appreciate the people who supported us, challenged us, inspired us, and kept us sane while the fraud landscape felt a little extra. Over the past few weeks, I've had some incredible conversations with Robbie from Sardine, Kathy Stokes from AARP, Mark Solomon from IEFCI, Andrea from Old Glory Bank, and Jen, of course, from America's Credit Unions, and so many more. And those conversations reminded me how thankful I am for this community, for this industry, for you. So today, I want to reflect on what I'm thankful for in this wild world of fraud prevention, spotlight some people who've made a big impact, and talk about what's coming. Because while we're ending this year strong, we've also got big plans for next year. Let's get into it. Sometimes I take a step back and realize just how unusual and incredible our journey is. Every day we deal with a new scam, a new fraud pattern, a new how did they even do this moment, a new operational fire, and occasionally a printer malfunction or, tech issue that feels suspiciously intentional. Can't tell you how many times I've clicked join Teams call and then all of a sudden my computer needs a reboot. I mean, it sometimes truly feels like it's out to get me. But yet we stay. Not because we love chaos, although some of us thrive in it a little too well. Is that a mirror? What? But because this work matters. When I talked with Kathy Stokes from AARP about the Words Matter campaign, it reminded me that this field isn't just about prevention and detection. It's about humanity. It's about the people behind every incident, every case, every loss. I'm thankful for an industry where empathy is finally being recognized as a core fraud prevention strategy, where we aren't afraid to talk about victims with dignity, where we correct language, challenge assumptions, and push for change. Then I've had conversations with leaders like Robbie at Sardine, who talked about true collaboration, collective intelligence, shared signals, bringing smaller institutions into the fold. And it made me grateful for innovators who want to raise the whole industry, not just optimize the biggest players. And Andrea from Old Glory Bank said something that stuck with me. And she said, this might actually be the best time to fight fraud. At first, no way, right? It just sounds too weird and too wild, but she's right. We're finally at a point where technology, data, awareness, and innovation are aligning. Tools are evolving. Collaboration is maturing. Fraud fighters are banding together in ways I've never seen before. And it just makes me so incredibly thankful to be in this space, in this moment. Now I want to highlight some people who just in the last few weeks have made a real impact on me and on this podcast. Robbie's interview left me thinking differently about what's possible when institutions work together. His humility, curiosity, and dedication to empowering both large and small FIs, that's something to be thankful for. I'm so ready to be a part of that industry where that collective intelligence that he talked about is our true world, which we are living in it now. And unfortunately for some of us, it still just feels kind of theoretical, but it's here, guys. This is something that we can do now, today, together, and it's so inspiring. Kathy Stokes from AARP. I told you guys I got to fangirl over her at the IFCI board meeting in Oklahoma, but let's just say I'll never stop. She is a hero to all, I believe. Her leadership is changing how we talk about victims, and it's reshaping an entire national conversation. I'm thankful for that courage. I'm thankful for the work that they do at AARP. It's the encouragement and the empowerment that's being given not only to the fraud fighters, but to the victims. That's commendable, and it's so great, and I'm so happy to be a part of this industry, right, of this change that's coming. Mark Solomon, when we talked about the IAFCI, getting to meet him in person at the international conference was a highlight. His leadership and global perspective on financial crimes remind me why IAFCI is such an impactful organization and why I'm honored to serve as second VP under Tricia Stoner for the Carolinas chapter. And we had a really remarkable conference last week that I'll talk about in just a few minutes. But yeah, just knowing that there are associations out there that truly care, that want to better the industry, that want to provide means for collaboration and just a way to get together and share, I think it's a phenomenal approach and something that we really need to take seriously when we look to, budgeting. Where do we want to put our dollars? Is it in associations that we just feel like maybe we're just paying a membership fee, or is it to an organization that really feels like they care and that it's not really about furthering themselves, but more of furthering the mission? And now let's talk about Jen with America's Credit Union. Jen, when she shared her stories about member scams and the emotional toll and how she's empowering her frontline team with quarterly fraud trainings, that grounded me again. It's in why this work matters. Her honesty and passion for protecting members are things I'm grateful for. I love finding fraud fighters that are passionate about the work that they do. And again, it's just one of those things that as we look to what we do in this industry where this job can get really heavy and really hard, when we see positive change like that, that just does something so much for my soul, at least for my soul, Andrea with Old Glory Bank, her optimism is refreshing, especially in a field where burnout is real. Andrea reminded me that innovation and the hope can coexist with high alertness and nonstop fraud chaos. Like, it's going to happen, right? But if we can start to at least test the AI and the innovative concepts that maybe we've been afraid of or we've shied away from, but we can do this, and we can do this with help. Sometimes the resources won't be in bodies, but it will be in tech, and it's time to start embracing that. Finally, the Carolinas IFCI conference crew. I told you guys I wanted to talk about it a little bit, but Fraud Week with this group, one of my favorite weeks of the year, plus adding in time with this team. So great. The energy, the sessions, the people, the conversations. I'm deeply thankful for this chapter and that I'm a part of this board. They fuel me. I want to mention a couple of highlights from the conference. One was our hospitality suite. Let me tell you guys, if you currently go to conferences and you don't participate in the hospitality suite or just the networking events, you're missing out. There's just something about being able to have an honest, raw conversation with others in the industry where you can truly dive into what does this look like? How can we request for new resources. What's something that you do to have that, what are your KPIs? What are your ROIs? What can I do differently to help prove the value of even coming to a conference like this? What does that look like? And so being able to have those conversations in an open, forum, so to speak, where it's not necessarily being recorded on a podcast, and it's not on a live panel, at a conference, but instead it's just having a one-on-one conversation with a pretty remarkable group. There's just something to it. And then I'll tell you, there were 2 awards that we gave out that were different this year from any other year. Our board created a community service award. It went to a fraud fighter that obviously she's done a lot for our community, but it's one that we decided this is an award that needs to be created. This is one that in our world, in our industry, what we do, sometimes it really takes a toll on us. We need to highlight those individuals that are doing so much in our community that they don't have to do it, but they choose to do it. And it's because they want to, and it's because they want to give back. And so we were able to honor one of my very best friends in this industry, Jessica Carteret from Rev Federal Credit Union, for the work that she and her organization are doing to give back to the community through, Rev's annual Knockout Fraud event, which we've spoken about before. And then they also do a Safeguarding Seniors where they go out and educate their community. Plus they have a students, class session thing that they do in their #adulting class, which I think is just phenomenal. And they go above and beyond. So we were able to highlight that, which I think it's a great call out for, at least for my gratitude, right? And then the other thing that we were able to do is we have an annual cyber and crypto investigator of the year. We decided to break those 2 up this year, and we will now have the Gavin Guffey Cyber Investigator of the Year Award. We were able to honor House Representative Brandon Guffey, who's done so much in the fight against, sextortion and with CSAM and with AI. It's just a lot that he's done, and we're just so grateful for him. So I'll read it rather quickly, but just because it's one of those things that I feel it's important to highlight today. But we chose to name this award for Gavin because his story is a powerful reminder of why our fight against online exploitation, sextortion, and cyber-enabled harassment is so urgent. These crimes are devastating, they take young lives, and they often hide in the dark where too many families never see them coming. In that darkness, Brandon Guffey chose to stand up. He chose advocacy over silence, action over despair, purpose over pain. His leadership and Gavin's legacy have sparked a movement across South Carolina to raise awareness, strengthen laws, and protect families from the very crimes we fight every day. It's because of him, countless children will be safer, countless parents will be informed, and countless investigators will be empowered to act sooner and stronger. It is in that spirit that this award will now honor the investigators who go above and beyond in confronting these online scams, those who bring justice to victims, expose predators, and shine light into the places where these offenses thrive. So we are so excited to have that as a part of our annual conference every year now. And we're just so thankful for Brandon Guffey for coming to our conference to talk more about sextortion and, everything that he's doing, at the White House, the different task forces, and of course in our state of South Carolina. And it's just one of those things, you guys, it's been a remarkable week. Fraud Week for 2025 was definitely one for the books, and one that I will not be forgetting anytime soon. Finally, I want to say thank you to the sponsors and the partners for the podcast. It's not lost on me how many doors open because people believe in this platform. The podcast is able to reach thousands because of these relationships, and I'm grateful for that support. So now let's talk about the big themes that have emerged from these recent interviews because they've been powerful. So we talked about collaboration no longer being optional, right? From Robbie and others, we fight better when we fight it together. The era of siloed intelligence is over. Again, it's the error of siloed intelligence. But yeah, I know it's supposed to be era. But I think that when I say error, It's either a Southern thing and I mess up, or you get it, right? It's an error that we shouldn't have that siloed intelligence anymore. We need to move on. We need to improve and do better and have that collective intelligence. Theme 2 would be language shapes culture. Kathy made this loud and clear, I think. If we shame victims, we protect fraudsters. Empathy is not optional. I want to say that one more time. Empathy is not optional. You can and should do this. Theme 3, scams are the industry's biggest threats. We all know this, but it's people like Jen who are working with her front lines that are witnessing the devastation and instead bringing them information in real time through quarterly updates of saying, hey, I'm not just going to give this to you annually. I'm going to give this to you as much and as often as I can. I'm not going to flood you with emails that you don't want, but I am going to tell you things that are important. And I think it's so important that we highlight people like her. We have work to do, real work on consumer protection and accountability. And we can take some notes from some of the amazing people in the industry. Theme 4, innovation is finally working for us. As Andrea said, this is a transformative moment. We have tools we've never had before, and they're evolving quickly. And theme 5, which I think will resonate with all of us, is that fraud fighters are exhausted, but hopeful. Every guest expressed some level of burnout, but they also expressed determination and optimism. That combination is creating movement. We've got this, fraud fighters, as long as we do it together.
Fraud doesn't live in silos anymore, and neither can the tools we use to fight it. That's where Sonar comes in. Sonar is a member-run fraud intelligence consortium built for today's reality, where people don't just transact with banks and credit unions, right? They move across fintechs, marketplaces, merchants, crypto platforms, and even prediction markets. Instead of only seeing what happens inside your four walls, Sonar helps you understand risk across the entire ecosystem a user touches, financial and non-financial. Here's how it works. Sonar brings together shared intelligence from banks, credit unions, fintechs, exchanges, and marketplaces to create a single unified risk view of an entity. You get a clear risk score, and when you need it, the signals behind that score that explain why the risk exists. And unlike traditional enrichment tools, this doesn't require stitching together a dozen vendors or standing up heavy integrations. You connect once, choose the types of intelligence you want, and Sonar returns a risk score enriched with insights from across where that user actually operates. For community banks and credit unions, this is a game changer. You don't need a massive fraud team or advanced data science resources to benefit. Smaller institutions can simply consume the risk score. More mature programs can dig into the attributes and layer Sonar signals into existing controls. And because Sonar is a member-driven utility, it aligns with how credit unions already operate, through shared governance, shared standards, and shared responsibility for protecting members. Even better, Sonar supports compliant data sharing for fraud and AML, including 314B, enabling collaboration without compromising regulatory expectations. Bottom line, fraudsters move fast and jump between platforms. Sonar helps community banks and credit unions move together with shared intelligence, broader visibility, and better decisions. To learn more or explore membership, visit joinsonar.com.
Okay, so what I'm thankful for, right? I mean, it is my podcast. On a personal and professional level, I'm thankful for so much this season. I'm thankful for the fraud fighters who show up to learn, share, help, and collaborate. Obviously, the credit union community will always be my home base, but I'm very grateful for them. The colleagues who became friends, the ones that you meet in person, for a month or two, and then they get, or their husband gets orders and they move to Texas and then maybe Vegas, but you stayed the very best of friends. And, those colleagues also that you worked with at a credit union or a bank, and you fought real hard to prove that their passion meant something. And it wasn't that they were crazy. It was that they truly were onto something and that they were a fraud fighter and that they should be celebrated. And even though you're no longer at that credit union, you still talk to those people. And so I'm grateful. And I miss you every day. I'm grateful for the mentors who guide me. Those that I don't get to see, those that live on the West Coast or in Midwest or upstate, upstate New York or Connecticut. Those are the ones that I can call and I can say, hey, I don't know what to do. Or, hey, I've got another bank or credit union that they're struggling with something. What advice can I give them? Or can I let them talk to you? Or, hey, I'm thinking about doing something different with the podcast. What do you think? And it's those people that have just meant so much to me, and I'm forever grateful. I'm also grateful for the guests who open up and trust this platform. I am so grateful for you guys that are willing to come on the show, willing to talk through some of those practical insights, not talk just theory, but really talk through what can we take back today? What can we implement tomorrow for the success of our fraud program? I'm so grateful for all of you, every single one that have come on this show. And the industry leaders, right, who push us all to level up. There's so many times I get on LinkedIn and I go, golly, this person's impressive. I'm so inspired to do more and to learn more. And I think that that's the season that we're kind of getting in. If you're not one of those industry leaders, take time to learn. And I know that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on things that maybe I need to know a little bit more about, and things that I want to make sure that I'm bringing back to this audience so that you guys can be prepared as the trends are beginning, or as we're looking to prepare for 2026. I'm going to be looking and learning and reading. So if there's anything that you guys want me to really focus on in the coming year, let me know now as I prep for next year. And then most importantly, I'm thankful for you, every listener. Every message, every question, every moment where you choose to keep fighting, even when it feels exhausting. You are the reason this podcast exists, and I am eternally grateful. Thank you for working and fighting fraud when we really would rather do anything, because the days are long and hard, but they're very worth it when we're able to do anything to help a victim, help prevent, help educate, help mitigate, or prevent them from becoming a victim again. We've got this. Okay, I want to talk about the future, because we're nowhere near the finish line. We're closing out this year with strength and intention. We've got more impactful interviews, more conversations on AI, collaboration, and consumer protection. Maybe a holiday episode coming up apart from this one. Thought leadership on 2026, and a few surprises. But next year, we're going even bigger, you guys. New series, new branding, new collaborations, and more intentional content just for you. 2026 is going to be a foundational year, and this podcast is stepping into that moment with purpose and momentum. As we head into Thanksgiving, I want you to know how grateful I am for this community, a community that continues to show up, innovate, collaborate, and fight for consumers every single day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the work you do. And thank you for being a part of this journey. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Eat the pie. I know I sure will. Log off if you can. And I'll see you back here next week, because we're just getting started. Stay vigilant, stay informed. And as always, I'll see you out there, fraud fighters. Thanks for listening to Fraud Forward. Remember, every conversation, every connection, and every insight moves our industry one step closer to stronger fraud defenses. If today's episode sparked an idea, share it with your team or tag me on LinkedIn. I love hearing how you're moving fraud forward in your own organization. Until next time, stay curious, stay resilient, keep moving fraud forward.